Hello everyone and welcome to another Knights of the Eternal Throne live stream video. So, what did we learn from the latest developer live stream which took place on December 15th? Quite a big change coming to the gearing system in 5.0. As you know, the gearing system, the Galactic command system, is complete and utterly awful. Okay, whoever thought of that, fire them. Just fire them. Tactical Flash, if it was the Tactical Flashpoint guy, he should be fired. Should have been fired a while ago, okay? The worst system in the game that we've ever seen. There were a few other topics, but no one cares about snowballs and Chapter 1 preferred players can get access to Chapter 1 of Kotet. You can be disappointed as well by Chapter 1 if you're a preferred player of Kotet. Chapter 1 was awful. Chapter 2 was good, but Chapter 1 was bad. So we're here for the gearing. We're here for the RNG gearing. The feedback they received is that it was shit, basically. People hated it. You know, Raiders hated it. PvPers hated it. Story players... Do the story players care about gearing? I don't think they do. So, you know, who cares, really? Story players, you can do your story. You can do the story, and you do the story naked. I did the story chapter bloody half naked. I fought Valkorian on my Vanguard half naked. And I didn't even realize that. I was wondering why I had no alacrity at some point. I was like, and I pressed C, and I was like, Jesus, half my gear's missing. I still finished the chapter, you know, it wasn't that hard. To be honest, fought Valkorian, fought Valen. I think it was that chapter 12 it was. I did half naked. So, you know, you couldn't tell, obviously, because you've got, like, a costume stamped over the top of it. And I just thought, like, I didn't notice my health because you get level sync, so your health drops anyway. So I just assumed it was level sync. You know, I wondered why I had 10k less health. So I was like, nah. Either way, still managed to do it. So story players don't really need gear. So the changes that they're going to make is that you can work towards specific pieces of gear, okay? And what's going to happen with operations is that they're going to drop unassembled gear pieces are going to drop from ops bosses. So the tier pieces, there's going to be 3 tiers, okay? The unassembled pieces are going to be random, and they're going to give you a command token. Command tokens are going to be guaranteed drops from the command crate, so you're still going to be grinding command XP. Still going to be doing that. They're going to be added retroactively. Okay, it's going to be January 24th when this comes in. So there's going to be 3 tiers of gear. Okay, tier 1 is going to be story mode. Tier 2, veteran. And tier 3 is going to be master. Okay, they're going to be random. There's going to be a specific slot on the last boss of each op. But it's still going to be a tier set. It's only going to be a tier set if you combine it with a command token, I guess. So I guess you could just turn in the unassembled piece for non-tier set gear, I guess. Because otherwise it's worthless if you don't have the command tokens. The command tokens are going to be legacy bound as well. They're going to be legacy bound. So I'm guessing there'll just be one thing. Hopefully there'll be a limit on the command tokens. So they're going to say command tokens is going to be legacy at least. So at least if you get a tier piece on another character, I guess you'll be able to send the command tokens over. So at least it gives your ult something to do. So they're going to be random. And you're going to go to the vendor and you're going to turn in the unassembled piece, and it's going to cost you command tokens. This is kind of similar to the system I suggested. I suggested use it to upgrade the current gear that you get. Like I say, you get a 230 piece, you could upgrade it to 240 with a sort of token piece gear. Very similar to that. What you can do is you add the tokens to the unassembled piece and it'll become the tier set. So there's going to be 3 tiers. I take it to... What is it? 228, 230, 240, 242. I take it. They're the 3 tiers. 228 isn't a tier. So 230 will be story mode. 240 veteran and 242 I think it is for master, for nightmare. Ops. They're still working on what to do with operations that only have 2 difficulty modes. It's fairly simple, I would say. For EV and KP, which only have 2 difficulties right now. Just make them tier 1 and 2. Okay, there's I would suggest for TOS and Ravagers, tier 2 and 3. Tier 2 should be available in story mode because they're a bit harder. I would say they're a bit harder. Tier 2 story mode, tier 3 because again HM is the equivalent of Nightmare for them, then they should give you best in slot gear. I don't think anyone would really have a problem, but EV should be tier 1 and 2. Okay, you shouldn't get best in slot gear from EV and KP, otherwise everyone will just farm EV and KP again and we'll be back to square one where we were in 4.0, and they've said they're still undecided on whether the command token cost will increase with the gear tier. It would add more grind to it, but I mean, hopefully if you can grind, if they are legacy wide, the command tokens will be legacy wide, so you know, maybe they should increase. I'm saying just, but I mean, even if you increase the amount that you get as you increase command level, so that your command level should be related to how many you get. Like, say if you get, I don't know, 10 for being 1 to 30, maybe give you 15, 30 to 60. You know, and then when you get above 300, you maybe get 40 or something. Say it costs 100 to do the gear. Say 100, 150, 200 to do the 3 tiers of gear. Something like that. But the higher the level you are, the higher the command level you are, the more you get per crate. Would be the simple way to do it. PvP, of course, is going to be not excluded for this. So they're going to say unassembled components are earned from war zones. They are earned from all war zones and arenas. They're going to be based on medals and match outcomes. At least we don't have to AFK now. At least we can reasonably do... we can actually do something in PvP matches, even if we lose, as long as we win medals. And stand beside the objective if it's based on medals, though. Because that's where you win the most medals, to stand next to one of the objectives that you've captured. You know, maybe should be a higher chance to drop if you win a match. Maybe double the chance if you win a match to encourage people to win, rather than just sit on the objective and earn medals. There's going to be a Valor requirement on the vendor, but not on the gear. So once you get the gear, they're not going to take it away from you. So you're going to be purchasing tier 1, and then you're going to upgrade to the higher tier. So you're going to use the gear that you earned. You can use the gear you earn from ops, and you can upgrade it via PvP. Honestly, upgrading it via PvP is probably going to be the quickest and easiest method, because of course operations are, I mean, they're harder to complete than PvP, because PvP, if you're going to get it without winning, then you're just going to get it through participation, whereas operations, you got to defeat the boss to get the gear. So I reckon we're probably going to be PvPing to upgrade our gear. Okay, so tier 1 I think will upgrade to tier 2. So you probably could get best in slot gear by just getting tier 1 SM ops and then doing PvP for it. I mean, you probably have to do a lot of PvP for it, but your PvP is essentially unlimited. So you have to be careful with how often they drop. If they don't drop often enough, nobody will do PvP. If they drop too often, everyone will be in PvP and no one will do PvE. So they have to be careful of how they get it. Okay, they said unassembles components. They're going to have, the vendor's going to have a Valor requirement. Okay. They haven't said if they're going to be class specific though. So if I'm a Vanguard and I grind out the gear and I can use the vendor because I have enough Valor on my Vanguard, and say I buy a Scoundrel Healer piece, they said it's not on the gear, so I could theoretically buy a Scoundrel Healer piece and transfer it to my Scoundrel via the Legacy Shells, because I think you'll be able to extract mods and enhancements and the armoring, of course, and slap it in a Legacy Shell and send it over to an alt. I'm guessing we could do that. So it says you'll need to PvP in a specific character to get the gear for them. Yeah, in order to get the... Unless they are just class specific. I take it they will. They usually are class specific PvP, although they weren't. You have class specific vendors, so I guess you could only get like a Vanguard piece of gear and you'll turn it in for either the DPS set or the tanking set. I'm guessing maybe that's how it'll work to stop you from doing that, because you're just going to play on your PvP tune. Of course, you're gonna, if you have a main for raiding and a main for PvP, you're going to be your main for PvP, aren't you? Because it's going to be so much quicker to gear up, because you can just sit all day and do war zones. You can't sit and raid all day because you're going to run out of content. You can sit and do PvP all day. So there's going to be... You're probably going to be PvP. They said PvP gearing will be slower. But again, they have to balance the rewards. Okay, they did say it would be slower than PvE gearing because you can just queue by yourself. But if they make it, the problem is if they make it really bad, all the PvPers will just do PvE to get their gear. That's what they'll do. They'll just go and do PvE. They won't bother with PvP, and the queue times will increase. If you award too much gear, all the PvEers will come to PvP. This is the problem with integrating PvP and PvE, putting everything in the one basket, is that the players are going to take the path of least resistance. Okay, we're always going to take the shortest route to get the best gear. Okay, that's always going to happen. You know, that's why everybody did EV and KP when they were the op of the week, because it's the shortest, quickest, easiest route to get the gear. Okay, they said that players who don't do operations in PvP, they're well going to offer them a way to spend their command tokens. So they said something cool so it doesn't go to waste. Why not just give them tier 1? Why not just make tier 1? Make them really expensive. Like for operations, if you have the unassembled piece, it's going to cost you 100 command tokens, right? With the set. If you don't have the set piece, it's going to cost you 500 tokens per piece. So it's going to just take you longer if you don't do ops. So you get 5 times the cost, obviously. I mean, that would be a good way to do it. So 5.1 is coming January 24th, this update. It's going to have 5 new uprisings. They mentioned that as well. January producer live stream is going to be talking about more group content. Yay. Don't say the O word though. It's a dirty word in BioWare. Operations, raids, dirty words. So overall, it's a good change at least. I don't really like the fact that bosses drop random unassembled gear pieces. I think what they should do with the random unassembled pieces is they should never drop the same piece twice. Essentially, apart from the last boss, which is obviously going to drop the specific piece. Let's say KP last boss drops the chest, which it did in 4.0. Then, say the first boss drops bracers, okay? The second, third, and fourth boss in KP shouldn't drop bracers, okay? They could drop the chest twice, but if the first boss dropped bracers, then it should be taken out of the loot table of something that can drop, so we don't just get a situation where we're in where 4 out of the 5 bosses give us bracers, because that would be a disaster. Okay, that would be horrible. Imagine getting like 4 bracers in every single boss fight. That would be quite a horrible thing to have. So take it out at least, so that we can't have bracers for all, at least. I could see that being a situation. But it is decent. I mean, it does mean all the problems we highlighted with the system, it does kind of solve some of them, or at least is a step towards a solution. Certainly for raiding guilds, it should make it better. Again, you can gear people who join the game late on. It's a good catch-up mechanic. You can at least get them the tier set and then get them the unassembled gear pieces and then tell them to go grind for the command tokens. I mean, they'll be getting command tokens obviously as they're doing the operations, but you can get people in. That was one of the biggest problems. If someone joins the game halfway through the expansion, they've got a hell of a lot of grind. They still have grind to do, but what's going to happen is that now at least you can gear them, at least. And it means we don't have to run EV and KPHM again. So what I would say is it's a step in the right direction. Whether it solves all the problems is yet to be seen. I don't think it's going to solve every single problem because, of course, you've still got the random element there. Hopefully we don't have 4 bracers on the boss, really. Hopefully we don't. They haven't said about non-set bonus pieces like relics and implants. I mean, again, they're not as important. I guess they could just keep them RNG. But the PvP gear, you might end up doing PvP. Because again, you can just queue for it. Even if it is slower, it is sort of unlimited. You know, you can run unlimited war zones. You could sit there all day and run war zones. You can't sit there all day and run operations because obviously there's weekly lockouts for operations. But although there is quite a lot of operations in the game that award the current tier. But again, I would suggest that for the 2 Difficulties, EVKP should just be story veteran, tier 1, tier 2. TOS and Ravager should be veteran master, tier 2, tier 3. I think because they're a bit harder. Should just label them as veteran and master. Really, just to save confusion. They said the commendation system was confusing. The commendation system wasn't confusing. It was, however, outdated. I mean, nobody who raided cared about comms, to be honest. Nobody who ever raided gave a shit about comms, right? The gear was bad, okay? What they should have done, really, was there was people claiming, oh, we're full 220 gear just by being a story player. And it's like, yeah, you got full 220 comms gear. But someone who was full 216 gear from operations probably were better geared than you, to be honest. They were doing more DPS. The gear was better optimized. It had the set bonus pieces on it. It had, you know, more power in the mods and the enhancements. The only people that really wanted com gear or Mark II gear that dropped from ops was the people who were tanks, basically. Some of the tanks benefited more from endurance, having extra endurance. In some bosses, endurance was desirable because they just hit so hard. And having mitigation had a random element to it. There was a chance they would miss. Whereas if they hit you and they hit you really hard and you had enough endurance to survive the big hit, that was better off. Endurance was more of a guarantee than, say, shield or something like that. Shield or absorb or something like that. So the only people that really wanted Mark IIs or com gear were tanks. The other thing was, for gearing alts, in 4.0 it was really easy to gear alts. If you were a raider, you were flooded with 220 Mark II gear, like, because people just randomed it. Nobody cared about 220 Mark II. Nobody gave a damn. Nobody cared about comms. Nobody cared about 220 Mark II. But hopefully the command tokens, at least they scale with the gear level. That's the important thing. Comms never scaled well with the gear level. Okay, they were very static. Okay, once you were past, once you started story mode ops, which you could do right away, the what is it? The middle data crystal, the elite comms, we'll call them. We'll go with elite comms. It's easier to do. What are they? Common, radiant, and something data crystal. I don't remember what they were. See, I forgot them already. Forgot about them already. So most people, you could forget about the middle tier, the elite comms, as soon as you hit level 65, because you didn't need them, because story mode ops bolstered you, and you got 216 Mark II, which was better, and you got 216 Mark I, which was the set bonus gear, which was just way better. And the fact that there was so many story mode ops, it was really easy to get 216 tier gear. So easy. So the 208 gear was kind of irrelevant as well, because again, bolster kind of solved that problem. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good step in the right direction, for me at least. And well, I don't know if we'll resub. Certainly gonna, sub runs out December 28th. Might come back January 24th and check it out. Certainly not gonna go and grind retroactively, because the best way to gear right now is to just ignore the command XP system and farm credits and just buy 228 gear. You get to pick the enhancements. 228 enhancements basically is what you want, essentially. If you have 224 gear, the mods are still pretty good for 224 mods, and obviously armorings, no one really cares about armorings unless they have a set bonus piece in them, because nobody cares about the stats on armorings. Mastery is pretty worthless, and so is endurance. If you're a DPS or a healer, nobody gives a shit about endurance. So the best way to gear was just farm credits. Get some credits, get a hyper crate, sell it on the GTN, sell it for 8 or 9 million credits, and put yourself in full 230 enhancements and get yourself 228 augments, and you're good enough to do HM ops. That was good enough. 230, 228 or 230 and 228 was good enough to do sort of EV KP HM. 230 if you want to do the rest of them. 230 enhancements and, you know, 228 augs essentially. Maybe a relic or two. Maybe buy a 230 barrel or something, or a 230 hilt or something like that to help your DPS out. And that was really enough to go into some of the HM ops, really, or the veteran ops as they're called now. But anyway, that is all for this video. It's good to see that at least they took on the feedback that everyone hated it, and at least they've come up with an alternative. So that is all for this video. Thank you for joining me. See you again soon, and goodbye.